Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Lore Gremlin Podcast. I am your host, Sopichi, the cryptid enthusiast.
And I'm your other host, MD, who exists.
And today we are going to be delving back into SparkVoices audio series and her lore. And more so, we're going to be focusing on Redwater. As you can probably tell by the title, this is part 1, because we were initially going to do it all in one go, and then realized that would be
There's
like
too
a
much.
5-hour episode. So,
And no.
yeah.
Just no.
So today we're just going to be talking about the general world of like Redwater, and then like the Redwater gang, which is like Dakota, Quinn, Becca, and then also we're going to talk about Ibby and Veronica. And a little bit of a trigger warning for this episode, because within these audios and in this episode today, we are going to be mentioning themes of death and terminal illness. So if those are things that you're not comfortable listening to, this is not the episode for you. Yeah. Okay, so first off, just talking about Redwater in general. It's basically a small town, located, like, I guess in the US. We're assuming this is like Earth place.
Somewhere. It is
Yeah.
at a place.
It is at a place. It is a small town, a little bit down and out, not really like a town made of money. The only thing they got going for them is this like private academy turned public college, which is kind of like weird, but we'll go into that.
Princeton.
Princeton.
Princeton is out, like, no, literally, like, Princeton is out in the middle of nowhere, Jersey, right?
Mhm.
And the only thing, like, the entire town around it is just basically fan service to the school. It's really weird. Like, there's just a strip of just, like, Princeton-themed buildings and, like, you know, souvenir shops and restaurants that have, like,
Mhm.
names after things there. And I'm like, this is weird. This feels like too much. We went to visit for,
Okay,
like,
so
whatever.
Redwater,
Yeah.
same as Princeton. Same as Princeton.
Redwater is Princeton confirmed? It's not as
Yep.
many cryptid things, I guess. It's not as supernatural.
Yes, another thing about Redwater is that it has, or as Quinn has said, has a lot of like lore and like cryptids, and we're going to talk about a few like dog church and other
I'm looking at the
things,
doc
but
and I was just say just dog church.
dog church. You're going to be like, what does that mean? We're going to explain it to you.
Oh, you're gonna love dog church.
Everyone's going to be a fan.
Mm-hmm. We're all rooting for the for the dog.
All rooting for the
Honestly,
dog.
the dog is the best boy. Truly.
Yeah. But yeah, so other than that, you just got Redwater University, which is, we don't really hear that much about it, but from what we know, it's like one of the only buildings that remained from the original town after the air quotes big landslide, which is something that's mentioned by Quinn, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like no clue about how that happened. I mean, I guess natural event, but I'm thinking supernatural, but we'll get into that later. So the first character that we're going to be talking about is Dakota. Do you want to talk about Dakota?
Sure.
The confidence.
I'm so knowledgeable about these characters. I totally didn't do a crash course like 2 hours before this.
No, of course not.
No, I'm a professional.
Professionals here, yeah.
We so know what we're doing. So Dakota's storyline, it's centered around Dakota. And her like platonic listener. It's a childhood friend. They grew up very close. Like, I think they were talking about, or not they. She was talking about, like, the listener's parents worked a lot and they were away a lot because of work, and so the listener spent, which I thought, I don't know what they didn't. I realized they didn't have a nickname at first, but then like we found out through Quinn that their nickname is Rascal, and I was like, wow. Now
Yeah.
I hear the listener's like name through another person. What? This is wild. No, straying from format. My goodness. But like, yeah. So I'm gonna call him Rascal. Yeah, they grew up at, like, they spent a lot of time at Dakota's house, and they were very close. I think they're both kind of shy, but listener is described to be someone who's very, caring and selfless and does not put their own needs before others, which leads to them doing very reckless things. So,
Hence the name.
yeah. So we're told that listener was in a car accident that left them in a coma, and Dakota is like the only person that's really able to make it out to the hospital where they were taken to, because Redwater has one doctor.
Yeah.
Wild. And yeah, so they were taken to another hospital, and Dakota kind of now acts, since she was a first responder. She's kind of now like she's the parent. Rascal's parents gave them like power of attorney. The reason why they were driving recklessly in rain, Redwater, they know, since you would think they would know since they grew up there. Oh yeah, you should not drive around when it's a really bad fall, because it's very dangerous. This town is just, also the way it sounds like, with everyone, like in all of these audios, this town like feels like it's underwater like at least 3/4 of the year. I don't understand why people are still living there. Like, just move.
Can't get out if you don't have money, right?
That's true. Like, oh my gosh, like you didn't learn from the first landslide, like, oh yeah, let's maybe move the town closer to drier.
The town is literally called Redwater because when it rains, the red clay goes into the rivers. Like it's in the name.
It's clearly not a very good place to start a town, like, structurally. So like, why?
Yeah.
Y'all stuck around for one building. But it is what it is, I guess. Anyway, listener was coming back because one of their other friends was going abroad, and Rascal wanted to go see them before she headed out, but then she couldn't. They couldn't because car crash. So we find out throughout the audios, Dakota's audios are fairly short, because also it's a lot of her talking it's not a lot of back and forth interactions, because
we can't exactly talk back when we're in a coma. So
sounds so horrible and insensitive.
But look, we got to a finale part, so we know things are okay. There's
a silver lining. There's something good happens. So just hold on. Anyways, we find out we're friends with Quinn. This girl Carolyn, or they call her Carrie, I think, at some point later on, right?
Yeah, Carrie's like her nickname, but Carolyn's like her full name.
Then I feel like there was someone else besides Becca that was mentioned in one of the other audios, but I don't remember. So, Becca, which I don't fully understand the beef. I don't know if we haven't gotten that yet. So,
not in detail, no.
No. Like, apparently there's drama in the group.
Yeah,
which,
goodness, something happened, and
something big enough happened that they're still worried about it 10 years later.
I mean, it must have been traumatic
for at least one person. Quinn's over it. I guess, like, I will never forgive you.
Look, it happened, okay?
We don't have to obsess over it. And Becca's like, watch me. But so we find out also, like, it's very funny that two listeners would have been, no, this is unrelated, but apparently Quinn's listener, which is called, I thought was Lorehound, but apparently is Trouble.
Trouble, yeah. I think we at first were calling them Lorehound because they didn't really have a nickname, but then after it was like Trouble, and we were like, oh, okay.
I guess it's shorter and cute.
Yeah.
I like Lorehound. Anyway, find out that they would have been like two listeners would have been roommates at the college, which I feel is like funny because like, oh, anytime they interact, you're just like dead silence because it's like your listeners.
Silence because no one can talk. It's both us. We are two people
at the same time.
It's the same.
Oh my god. But yeah, you find out that the school is like apparently a really famous school, which like
Princeton.
It's
Princeton.
Like you said. It's Princeton. And it used to be private, then it went public. I have a note. Becca was also part of the group. OMG, that girl was beefing with Quinn for what? Honestly, still don't know. But Dakota's pretty like not removed or like new. I first like was thinking she's kind of neutral, but she's not. She's just like I don't know enough, and I've heard. I guess she's heard both sides. She's like that. I can't speak really from what like she hasn't been told enough to really have like a firm opinion on it. So she's just letting them figure it out.
Mhm.
So then at some point, like this happens over the course of like what a few days, right? And Dakota
Yeah.
comes to visit you and like does work while she's babysitting you, which I don't understand why she's babysitting because we're in a coma.
I mean, I think it's more like she's,
Yeah,
like,
comfort, like
staying just in case we wake up, which,
yeah,
that's nice.
it's really nice. Um, God, doing really well. Anyways, she's there, kind of just like with us and talking to us, and I think that also helps, listener subconsciously feel better.
Mhm.
But at some point, the nurse comes in and mentions that they're going to run some tests on Rascal. And Dakota's like, well, because at first she alludes to like, oh, it doesn't sound too good right now, but I'm hoping that you'll come back through. And then they run
Mhm.
tests. And then we find out in the next audio that apparently you're determined brain dead. Which,
Yeah.
that's wild. I literally was like,
It's rough.
joking. Yeah, I was like joking around, like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do? And then they're like, oh, you're brain dead. And I'm like, oh God. Dang. And then she makes the call because she's like, she talked with our parents, and they're like, they don't want Rascal to suffer anymore. So if there's nothing to be done, we'll pull the plug. And as they're getting ready to pull the plug, like they're doing all the official, like, oh, time of death. The records state that all parties involved were aware and consented to this. Blah blah blah. She's like panicking, and she's like, no, this can't be it. You've been with me. You stuck by me when people made fun of my family and my history, and called me names and spread rumors. And I was like, what rumors? You can't just say that and then
I
not
know, I was
give
like, "Spill the
details.
tea," like
What rumors?
like,
But
I know in this context, we as the listener know
we
about
quote
this,
unquote
but,
know,
like,
but like
also,
we
just,
don't
like,
know.
can you, like, refresh our memory?
Yeah. Like
'Cause,
how like the
I had a
spirit
coma.
couldn't
Just
have forgotten
refresh my
a little
memory
bit.
for me.
Just like what's it? Like when people like when not audio stories, but like they're like, oh yeah, this thing from like when we were little, but then they recount the entire like and I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's what I needed. This was the moment to do that. Of all the moments, this was the moment. But
But Dakota was like, "Nah, I'm gonna be
nah. I'll tell
just
you about the
very
story
subtle."
with the little mini house where you're falling off the roof, but nah, not anything else. You don't get the rest of that. Anyway, um, so she's like panicking a little bit. She's like, it can't end like this, and she says later on that she felt something change after that,
Mhm.
but they pull the plug. And they're like, huh. And she's like, what? She's like, they should be dying right now, but their vitals are normal. And then you wake
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, what? I thought you were brain dead. They can kind of determine. Modern science is amazing in that when they say, oh, that's pretty, solid, that's pretty solid.
It usually means that
Usually
that's
means.
yeah.
But no, because it's red water or near red water. So, people are defying odds left and right. But anyway, how we don't know. We have no idea how we managed to survive that. We wake up, they're kind of like gonna study us for a little bit. We're like, I don't know how this happened, but yay, this is
Yeah.
nice. This is good. Um, and Dakota, I think, leaves, then gets on the phone with Quinn,
Mhm.
and it's like, yo, something crazy happened. I felt something weird happen when they
And
pulled the
they
plug,
lived.
and they lived, and now everything feels just a little off. And Quinn was like, "You should go visit your grandparents. Maybe they have, like, you know what you need to do? You need to go visit your grandparents." And I was like, "What? We haven't heard anything about any grandparents until now." So I'm like, "What are
Mhm.
you talking about? What family
I'm like,
history?
"What are you talking about, Quinn?
What is this?
Give us details!"
For real? Like, I need information." But
Um,
yeah, then that's where it kind of ends with Dakota. Like, we're recovering at the hospital, and I think our parents are on their way, and
mhm.
she leaves to go find out more about herself.
So much mystery.
So much. A lot of unanswered questions.
Um, okay. So next we're gonna go over Quinn. Um, so basically Quinn is, as we've mentioned, friends with Dakota. In like the first audio, we meet them at the grocery store. So we meet Quinn in the grocery store. Quinn finds out that we're actually like a new student at the university. Quinn is also a student there, like part-time, but then also part-time working at the museum that the school has. It's like the school museum, right? Not just a museum.
I I think so. 'Cause I mean, the school's the only. It's like a family owns it. I think they run the school
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, so Quinn is like also a student there, but also works part-time at like the school's museum where they have all the old stuff. I don't know. It's a museum. They got old museum stuff. But yeah, so Quinn basically gives us a rundown of like a few things to watch out since we're new to Redwater. Basically is like, hey, when it's raining, don't go out because you
Don't
might
go near
die.
the
And then it's
mines.
like, don't go near the mines because you know what? You might die.
So intense.
Telling us all this stuff. Just very
Like a
like, you
stranger
know,
and like a Walmart or whatever.
this
Not a Walmart, obviously, but
and
like,
is just like, hey, here's like all this, crazy stuff about our town.
Mhm.
It's like, oh yeah, our town also known for like urban legends and like maybe cryptids. And I'm like, okay, this is like a lot of information. We just met up in a grocery store.
For real. Like, like if it was like any other person that said this, the listener would be just running away or like trying to calmly, like if it
Yeah.
was an old man, like hunched over, like be aware of the mines. You'd be like, okay, sir, and you like run off.
And then just continue walking.
Yeah, no, it's
Um,
someone your age who's like, just watch out for this. But then like they get all up in your face and like, don't go near the mines.
Don't go into the
Don't go
mines.
anywhere. Don't even look at the mines. Don't think about the
It's
mines.
it's like why? And it's like it's just
Don't
don't. And
do
I'm
it.
like,
It's like I need
okay.
answers. I need like an actual explanation. That's how people end up in those
Mhm.
horror scenarios because they're like, no one, it all must be make believe because no one can give a straight answer. It's gonna be us.
So then basically gives us the nickname Trouble. Um it seems like personality wise the listener's very curious. Is like a journalism major at the university. And then later, Quinn basically tells us about like this is the first, cryptid story we get to hear about, which is Dog Church, as we have mentioned earlier, which is basically about a church that is near Quinn's home. And it basically has this story about a hellhound that had gone to that church and was like surrounding that area, and that's why the church is closed down. Whenever people try to like reopen the church, like an incident happens, like somebody dies, and they're like, oh, it was the hellhound. And it's like, what do you mean?
It's so like, oh, this is just fine. This is fine. Like, yeah, we had
Yeah.
people mauled to death by a dog. We're gonna
Hmm.
be fine with this. Like,
They're just like, we're gonna leave it there because when people have talked about like destroying it, that's when something bad happened. They're like, you know what, if we leave it there, we're all safe.
if we pretend that it doesn't exist, no one will get
Yeah.
hurt.
Like,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like weird the story because like I know they describe it as like a hellhound, but like the first person that gets attacked in the story that we talk about is the preacher who we learned
Corrupt.
stole money from the church. So it's like, is he a hellhound or
He's
is
trying to
he
get back into
like, because
heaven.
you associate hell with like, bad,
Hell.
negative, but like hell.
Hell with hell.
But like it's like I'm not gonna say the hound did a good thing because it killed someone.
I mean,
but
for a good reason.
For a good reason.
Kevin
So,
outsourced,
you know.
to hell. They're like, hey, can you send one of your people? Can you send, the dog? We can't get involved because that'll look bad, but can you do this for us?
Yeah. Just bring us that big doggo.
Mm-hmm.
They'll take care of it.
Honestly, I cannot wait for us to actually interact with the dog. I hope we do. Because, like, I want to know what it looks like. And, like, I think Hellhound is the
Well,
best boy.
maybe you should stick around for the Create Your Own Adventure audio,
God.
because perhaps we meet the doggo there.
What? You didn't tell me that!
It's not... Okay, so it's, like, very quick and, like, not as friendly.
So what?
But, see, this is why the Create Your Own Adventure needs its, like, own episode to talk about, because there's a lot that
How many endings did you say that there were?
15.
I have to go through
15 different endings.
God.
I have them all written down already. It was crazy trying to find all 15.
Oh my god! I remember you were like, I can't find the last one. I have to find it. I had a dream about it. Oh my god! Spark was like, actually,
I
it doesn't
did.
have. I miscounted. Sorry.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, I got it all.
Totally
And then I was
doesn't
like, but
devastate me in any way.
I was like, but like my dream ending was like really cool.
Hey Spark, do you have like the energy to record just one more ending? Because I think you should really do this.
I literally messaged Spark. I was like, yo, I had a dream. This was the dream. I imagined this kind of ending. Just say.
What did she say?
She was just like, oh, that's cool.
It's like when you...
what else?
You know that meme of like Pepe Silva? But then like Spark is like on the other side just like, oh my gosh, have you slept? Are you okay? You might need some rest.
I haven't slept for days. So yeah, that was its own whole ordeal. So that's why it needs to be separate from like this episode, because I would go crazy.
Oh my god.
But yeah, okay, back. We were talking about Quinn. I got distracted. Okay, so yeah, Quinn tells us about Dog Church, the Hellhound, best #1 pupper.
Truly.
And yeah. And then we run into Becca, as we've mentioned earlier, who is holding a grudge against Quinn. 10 years now. We don't really know. Quinn doesn't tell us what the issue is. Quinn just tells us... So Quinn, I think I've mentioned earlier that Quinn uses they, them pronouns, non-binary. But so, like, during the conversation, like, Becca used, like, Quinn's, like, dead name, which at first we were like, oh my god, is this the drama? And then Spark was like, no, just Becca didn't know
terrible person?
about Quinn's new name.
Is she a terrible person? Like, no, she's just weird and out of the loop.
It's like, nope, she has no idea. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it has nothing to do with that. So it's like different kind of drama. Like, and I'm like, so what is it?
Drama.
What is the drama?
It's the tea.
So then we go with Quinn to go see Dog Church, because we are like, I need more lore. Give me the information. Basically, Trouble is a lore gremlin. Like, this is confirmed. We just want to know all the answers. We get stuck in the church and we have a near encounter with the Hellhound. I don't know. There's like a lot of like, we need to run. Yeah. And we need to go. And it's like, what is happening?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, because at first I was like, the door slamming in the video, I thought that was the dog. And then it was like, nah. I've been stuck in here before. There's a hole in the wall. We can get out. And I was like, oh, okay. And then there was like another noise. And that's why Quinn was like, just run to the car. Run. And I was like, wait, is it here? That doesn't sound like a dog.
I'm like, is it here? I want to see.
I want to see the boy. I brought treats specifically for this situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then in like the next audio,
we go to like when we first visit them at the museum, and we find out about like how it's all like all this stuff there is like from the family, like, and they run then we go to dog church, and then we go to their house because it's
Oh yeah.
raining. And then I don't know
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much later we go to the dog park. But like at some point they have a whole coyote. How do you just
Yeah,
have a coyote?
Quinn has a zoo of
Really?
animals.
I thought they were also the trash thing. I thought it was a raccoon. Nah, it's a possum. That's so much
We got
better.
possum, coyote, was watching Dakota's cat, like,
And a bird. Oh my gosh.
and a bird, yes. Can't forget the bird.
Did-
Basically a zoo.
Really?
Quinn has a zoo.
Goodness.
But yeah, so when we go to the park, we're taking, Quinn's coyote to go play with the dogs, I
I
guess.
guess people are so used to it now. They're like, oh yeah, it's just
They're just like, that's Quinn with their coyote dog.
their little mini wolf dog. Oh my god.
Yeah. I think Quinn gets out some kind of like RC car. Is that what it's called? An RC? Or is it another word?
Yeah, it's a remote
Another letter.
control
One of the
car.
remote control. It is RC. RC car. Yes, I knew what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so basically, the coyote, the dogs are all chasing it. Dakota comes by, or they run into Dakota later, because Dakota wants to go pick up her cat,
She has a cat.
pick up her cat. And then Quinn is like can tell that like Dakota is stressed out, and that's when we find out about Dakota's nickname, or Dakota's listener's nickname, which is Rascal. And that's kind of where we are right now with Quinn's story.
Yeah. I left on like a weird note because it was like, oh, they made like casual talk, like casual small talk.
Mhm.
Oh my god. And then like after, it's like, how like, oh, you're I've never been in this situation, but like how you're like, I don't know, I guess it's like a like, oh, your boyfriend, and like you talk to his friend and you like meet them for the first time, and then he's like, something was off with him, and you're like, wait, what? There was? I couldn't tell. And they're like, yeah, because you don't know him. So it's like, it's very because I have had a boyfriend. It's very much that scenario, like, oh, you don't know this person, so you're like, oh yeah, everything's fine. And then like the person that doesn't, they're like, something is off. Tone of voice was
Mhm.
just not right.
So that's where we left off on there. You wanna
Sure.
talk about
Yeah,
Veronica now?
speaking of Dakota, we also got to meet her cousin. I was about to say sister. Couldn't be further from the truth. Her cousin Veronica. So what happens? And Veronica's a trip. First of all, she's hilarious.
She's
Like she's like, I don't. It's so wild to me. Like hearing her say these things, and then she's like, "No, I'm abstaining," and I'm like, "You're so bold. Oh my goodness, I'm freaking
so
out." Like, huh. Like, you can do what you
like
want. Yeah, you're
flustered.
like, you can do whatever you want.
I'm like, what
You
do
do
I
you.
do?
But I'm like so unused to. I'm like, oh my god, jeez, whoa. So, the listener is so socially awkward. Like, I feel like even though they don't remember Dakota. Like, I don't know how, because I feel like they would have gotten along so well. Because they're both just like,
Mhm.
like quiet and so. Actually, maybe more like Ibby,
Quiet,
because
yeah.
Ibby is weird. I like Ibby, but she's wild. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Contract Veronica. Uh, so you are a counselor, I guess, at Camp Gemini.
Mhm.
Hey, Gemini. Um, and Veronica shows up. She's the only lifeguard. She's also the only one that applied for the job. Like no one knows about that this place needs workers. So
Mhm.
she shows up. She's like, "Hey, I'm the new lifeguard. Can you show me around?" And blah blah blah. And you take her to her, wasn't like the boathouse? What's it called?
Yeah.
It's a boathouse. We're going boathouse. And
Boathouse.
boathouse. Um and she ends up like, it's not as much in this audio. I mean, it kind of is, but like not as much until the end. But like you just her flirting just kind of grows as like the conversation continues and she becomes more shameless. And it's very like, and it's not even like anything really explicit or anything. It's just like, oh, she's very like bold.
She
Yeah.
knows what buttons to poke to make the listener just like a flustered hot
Yeah.
mess.
I'm like, wow,
Basically.
I'm not used to this. This is wild. Even if it is an audio, like I know this isn't
And
real.
like compliments and like so
Oh
many
my
other things. I'm
goodness.
like, what is this?
Wow. But yeah, so you know, it's you find out she's cousins with Dakota. That's how she found out about the job. Um
Mhm.
that you also apparently used to go to this camp when you all were kids. Her, you and Dakota, and I guess probably
Yeah.
the other group members. Which I feel like they should have a crew name, but they don't. It's the Redwater crew, but like
I mean, it's like Redwater crew, yeah.
don't need like a name. Anybody is the Redwater
Mm.
crew. Not anybody, but like you know, there's like a bunch of people in Redwater, including like other characters that we're going to talk about. I guess could also technically be the Redwater crew.
Yeah.
We'll think for another day.
We'll workshop it.
We'll submit on a form, submit everything to Spark.
Suggestions, write them in the comments
Like, hey,
below.
this is what the community has decided the name of the group should be. Take it or leave it.
The council has spoken.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so you find out also these name things are so weird and so funny. But yeah, you find out so her apparently the camp when you work there for privacy reasons, you have to use a different name, which I've never heard of. But apparently that's what you do. And her
What they do.
apparently and apparently her camp name is Shimmer, which I was like that like wow. That fits her. Shimmer is her camp name, and she's like, "Oh, I'll help you come up with one." And she like gives us backhanded compliments. Like, yeah, you don't really have a lot of energy, so I wouldn't say sunshine. You're just pretty normal. Of course, we're idiots, and we're like, maybe that should be our camp name.
We're like normal. That's cool. And
Just
you know, Veronica's like, no,
no,
that
that's
is
not a
not
cute. That's
cool.
not cute, honey. So I just think I'm like, oh, that's so funny. That yeah, your name is normal, and watch all this wacky stuff about to happen to you. But it's fine. We're actually
Mhm.
our name, which it makes sense. But I'm like, I don't know. Whenever I think of like, so the name is Twin, and I'm like, I don't know why I think of twin. Like I always think of like two people, right? Even if it is just like, oh yeah, you're a twin. That's still one person. But I'm like, you need
Mhm.
another person. You need like another twin. So like, it's just like
You cannot
you can't
just
just
be
be
one
one and
and
yeah,
be
be called a
called
twin. I'm like,
twin.
there needs to be another one of you. But it's fine. It makes sense for the camp. That's why you did it.
Because Gemini twin, yeah.
Yeah, you find out, yeah, not a lot of people know about like job like openings that are happening at camp. So like there's not a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um I guess there's also not a lot of people like in terms of like campers. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of kids, but also at the same time,
Yeah.
probably not, because it's also a small town. Like the only areas surrounding it are really small areas. So and they're like the only ones that have
Mhm.
heard of it. So I can't imagine there's gonna
Yeah.
be too many kids. But there's like enough.
Yeah.
Um
Enough to
yeah.
actually have a camp. Yeah.
Enough for the camp to exist. Um you
Mhm.
find out more about not Dakota. Veronica. Every time I say Veronica, I think of Heather's. Veronica,
Heather's, yeah.
open the door, please.
I mean,
Oh my gosh, watch us turn into JD.
I'm not
Can
gonna
we?
lie.
We should have done
That
that.
was
Oh my god, Spark. Missed opportunity.
that could have been our
Could have been our
nickname.
nickname.
I'm gonna I'm gonna only call them JD
Honestly.
now. There.
Same. I'm doing that too.
Like in audio it will be twin, but
Oh
I'm
my gosh,
just gonna be like,
JD.
Veronica and JD.
Because I'm not calling her Shimmer. But I'm not going to remember to. I'm going to always see Veronica. I'm always going to think of her as Veronica because that's how she was first introduced. But uh anyways, we find out that Veronica is very different than Dakota. Just makes sense. cousin. I'm not, most people I think are pretty different from their cousins. It's like it's interesting because I guess they grew up pretty close, right? So like it's weird to see, not weird, but like interesting. Oh yeah, they're complete opposites. Like she's very extroverted and like I don't know if she's like not a blonde beauty queen, but she's very like put together and likes to be outdoors and active, and she's just kind of like she seems very social. And Dakota
Yeah.
is very much not, and she's a quiet. She likes to stay at home.
It's
She's a
just
worry.
so
Yeah, she's very
shy.
shy.
Very
She
sweet.
worries about
Yeah.
people so much. So, you just kind of learn like, oh yeah, we're really different, but we go up together, and there's not like a lot of the video is just like getting to know each other, I think, right? And like, of course, Veronica flirting, but I think, and it's also like there's only 2 audios, so there's not like a whole lot of lore yet. But you do find out that oh yeah, we neighbor a wildlife reserve with a bunch of wild animals, including 3 new additions, all cougars, like mountain lions and stuff, which is fun. Like that shouldn't be a problem at all. That's not a funny little detail that'll just be thrown away later for like, that's not going to be kept in later. That's not going to be important to know.
Yeah, like wildlife reserve next to a camp with a bunch of innocent
That's
children.
totally a good idea.
Totally, nothing
What
could
could
go
happen?
wrong.
What could possibly go wrong? So that's kind of like I think it ends with like, oh yeah, we're gonna have like a quote unquote date, just to really just mess with the listener. Of like, oh yeah, we're gonna eat our dinner by the lake and then go for a midnight swim. I'm like, that sounds like trouble, but okay.
This sounds like every horror
real.
movie with a camp
Yeah,
in it.
and she even said before, like, oh yeah, something about the woods at night sets me on edge, but that might just be the wild animals. And I'm like, dude, not me. I'm not the one. I'm going to camp. I'm going to stay in the cabin as much as I can. But yeah, that's all we got for Veronica. Last we have Ibby.
Ibby, yeah. So Ibby basically starting off in the audio, we're just walking our dog. We're just walking our dog in the
No
forest,
ulterior motives.
minding our business.
Nothing planned.
And next thing we know, we hear sounds in the distance. When we meet Ibby, Ibby's like, "Oh, there was a rock slide, and all of my sound effect stuff went in rock slide." And I'm like, that did not sound like a rock slide to me.
Also, not any kind of sound effects that a human being could make with their mouth or with anything in nature. Like, what kind of cover up is
But
this?
yeah, Ibby's like, "Yeah, I'm a VA, I'm an ASMR artist," and I'm like, "Okay, sure, bud."
Spark, is this your self-insert?
And then basically, Ibby talks to, is very friendly and just like talking to the listener, gives the listener a nickname super early, is just like, "I'm gonna call you Bud," like buddy, but I'm gonna call you
Bud, not
Bud.
buddy.
And I'm like, okay. So then through talking, Ibby finds out that Buddy, the listener, has a terminal illness. That's why they came back to Redwater. They grew up in Redwater, so they're just coming back home to basically live out their last days, weeks, months. We don't know how much time they've got, really.
Honestly, it's kind of wild.
But yeah, so it's like kind of sad. But despite that, Ibby's like, "I want to be your friend. Like, I know we won't have all that much time together, but I want to be your friend." And I'm like, "Okay, Ibby, whatever you want." I mean, it's nice. It's a very nice sentiment.
She's very nice, but like I love every time she sets herself up for like a really bad, like awkward moment, and because she's like, why would you come out here? There's only one doctor, Then it's like, oh yeah, it's a terminal illness. And she's like, oh, sorry. Which, like, I would totally do that. So I'm like, oh god, it's like watching yourself dig yourself into a deeper hole. You're like, oh god, I wish I could do something to help you, but I can't because you're not real. Oh my god. Yeah. And it happens like more than once. Like, you can at least tell me if they're alive. They're not. Oh.
So yeah, like, and at the end of that audio, like, Ibby gives us like a little hagstone, because like Ibby's like, "I have lots of hobbies. One of my hobbies is getting hagstones."
That sounds like someone who does not have a lot of hobbies. I have a lot of hobbies.
I don't know. Ibby's a bit
She's
odd, but
so
like in a very interesting way.
she's very odd, but it's endearing.
Yeah. I had to look up what a hagstone is because I didn't know, but apparently it's a stone with a circle in it or like a hole in it, and like I guess some people believe that if you look through it, you could see fairies or witches, which I'm like, in Redwater, that might be very helpful. Um, so yeah, then going into like the next part where Ibby, I guess, is coming over to our place. We've been kind of like staying inside. Ibby's like, sorry I'm late. There was a car crash and someone went missing, and I went to help search,
Just
which
casually.
this, I believe this is connected to the create your own adventure because there is a car crash thing that goes on. That's not really spoilers, that's just like the first part of the audio thing. So, what do you even call it? There's like audios within
I
audios.
don't
I
know.
guess just it's a lot of audios for
I
one
didn't even know that
audio.
there was a car crash thing in the Choose Your Own Adventure. I still have to get through. I have to listen to it.
It will be a
I'm
lot.
I'm
Trust
looking
me.
forward to it.
So yeah, they're like talking about that, and they talk about how like Buddy's staying inside all the time and not really going out, and like Ibby's like, we need to go out and like live life. And I'm like, okay. Like that's kind of like what Ibby says, and I'm just like, Ibby, do you
Honestly,
understand my
she's like,
situation?
and like even before she's like, "Are you sure you can talk about this? You know, this isn't just like chicken." I'm like, "Yeah, no, duh. I'm kind of aware." It's like I would, but I'm like, that's just
Yeah. Ibby's
yeah. Like
trying
I
to
think
be
it's like the
nice.
socially awkward part. I'm like, because I would totally say I've literally asked someone. They're like, "Oh yeah, I ate something toxic," and I was like, "Did you die?" So like, I would totally like say something like I mean, I don't think Ibby's gonna say something that dumb, but I feel like, I'm like, oh, I can see like, oh, you ask like you when you're concerned, right? You kind of like talk first and then think, oh yeah, maybe that's not the best thing. But also, I don't know because maybe
What
not
I
what
should
I
say.
should
Yeah.
say. And then the whole thing with the dog, and I was like, yeah. She's like, oh yeah, you weren't really in your right. Maybe you weren't really in your right mind. I'm like, your right mind. I'm like, yeah, because I thought I was gonna die today.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So the day
I'm
that
spoilering.
Buddy had met Ibby, I mean, it's
Yeah.
okay. We were gonna mention it. The day that Buddy had met Ibby was the day that the doctor said that Buddy was gonna die, and then. So yeah, I mean, Buddy didn't have a clear plan, obviously. So I feel like Ibby had some right when talking about the whole dog thing, because like Buddy's idea is like, I'm gonna go with a walk for my dog, and then just let my dog free into the woods.
Was it a great plan?
I
No.
mean,
Was it? But they were kind of distressed.
yeah. So honestly, I have no room to
Yeah.
judge.
But, oh my gosh, they're like, that's not
um,
safe." And I was like, "I love that you think that we were thinking about safety in that moment." Wow.
um, but yeah. So Buddy and Ibby keep talking. At one point, Buddy says that Ibby reminds them of a friend that is no longer alive, which was interesting.
I think I said, "What is Ibby a ghost?" And like a little like because I was like, I don't. It just the way that Ibby is kind of like described how she interacts with people and like I'm like,
Mhm.
she yeah
People don't really
yeah they
notice
like either
Ibby.
avoid her or
Yeah.
like ignore her existence completely. It's or like it's nice to see someone outside of work, which I was like, like or
Mhm.
someone to acknowledge my existence outside of work. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how do you live in a town and like no one really knows who you are? Like, does she just not realize that she's a ghost?
Mhm.
But also, then I guess
Yeah.
people,
So
she went looking for people in the car crash in a.
some of that can, well, some of it kind of can be answered by the
I
Create
have to
Your Own
listen. I
Adventure
still haven't
open
listened
road
though,
audio
so I
thing.
don't know.
You have to listen. You have to listen. But of course, we won't mention it here. Like the thing is, it's funny because like MD hasn't
I'm
seen
very
it, but I
behind.
have. So like, that's okay. Um, but yeah, basically, Ibby's just like, let's go to a social event. They're gonna have ice cream. I don't
I
know.
haven't been
Let's
to an
go
ice
out.
cream social
Like
since I
that's
think
where.
kindergarten. So I don't know, like, I didn't think they were common, but apparently they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess small
I was
town,
in a
what
small
else do
town!
you gotta do?
But I guess all the people they're we're a small town close to a big city, so I guess it's different than being literally out in the middle of nowhere.
Mm, yeah, just, like, in the woods.
Surrounded by nature? Oh my god, can you imagine? Wild.
No, never. Literally.
Tell me you live in near a city or in a city, and without telling me you live in or near a city. Like, oh my gosh, nature. Gross.
It's crazy.
Grass that's green, not artificial? What?
But yeah, that's basically where we stopped off with, Ibby's audios. So next we have Becca. You wanna go ahead and talk about
Oh my god,
Becca?
I don't
You
I
got
was
so
so
much
annoyed with
anger
her.
towards Becca.
It's like, oh my god. Regardless of your pronouns, you'll still be a little. I'm like, oh my god, can you actually just shut up? This is so like I'm not even part of the the drama, and I'm over it. Oh god, I need to let it go. Oh, we're in the same
Let
friend
it
group too. Like
go.
you literally have the same friends. Like you can't. This is. You have to resolve this if you're gonna continue to hang out with the same people. Like either leave the group or don't and sort it out. But whatever. Anyway, I like that in the audio, you didn't even realize it was her until like the very end. You're like, oh, okay. But
Mhm.
apparently she's a medium. She can talk to. I can see dead people. And like, so we also have a ghost listener, which is wild. Love that. We did.
Yeah,
And
we're dead.
uh,
I love how throughout the Redwater stuff, it's like, okay, Dakota almost dead. With Quinn, we could probably die. Veronica, we're okay.
no,
Ibby, I
Veronica,
have
we
no
might die
idea.
because we're
Maybe
a
Ibby's
cougar.
dead.
Because of the cougar, we're gonna get eaten by
We
animals.
might die.
God,
Basically, Redwater is like a
really.
death trap. You're either dead, almost dead, or you're
It's
with
going to
someone
lead
who
to your
is dead.
death. Oh my god, just leave. Don't come to the people are like, oh yeah, the ghost stories are great. I want to come. No, you don't. No, you don't. Don't do it. It's not worth it. But yeah, people at various stages of death. That's what the listeners are, or their characters, or their counterparts. Because Ibby might be dead.
Yeah. Ibby might be
The only
dead.
one whose life is questionable. It's like not questionable. Her what is it? Not mortality. What is it? Life status? That's not life status. What's her life?
Existence?
Yeah, her existence is questionable. The only one whose existence is questionable. Yeah, so you run into Becca in the woods. I think she's chasing you.
Well, Becca's being led by a different spirit, I guess. Because Becca's like, I want to help out this other spirit, but I guess I'll help
Which is
you.
so rude. First, I'll be like, you don't have to help me. You can go off. All right, I don't need your help. But that's
And I'm like, why did this other spirit lead Becca to our spirit? There's just a lot of
Who is this other
questions.
guy? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's a lot, and it's also only one audio, so we have no context and only
No
question.
context, only questions.
But yeah, she comes up to you, and she's also she's 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 an interesting kind of strategy. She's like, I didn't want to help you, but I will. So what's your problem? And you're like, well, I don't really feel like I want to tell you now, but okay. But so she's like, she asks, what's, the thing that would help you move on? Because that's the whole point, right? How do you help the spirit move on? And we're like, apparently we want to see our family again. And she's like, I'm sorry, babes, but you're based off of your clothing. It looks like you're from the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Like, based on your wardrobe, you were like so 2000 and late.
I hate you. No.
Tell me Becca wouldn't say something like that.
She
See.
would. Oh. She so would. God, I dislike her even more now. Oh, God. I hope she can figure it, because once she figures her thing out with Quinn, I won't have a problem with her, but, like, this is just unnecessary. Anyways, she's like, yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna happen, so what else can we do? I don't even think we can resolve it. Like, we don't even say, right, like, what she's like, "Oh, we'll find, what's tying you to
Yeah,
this place."
whether it's something
But
that killed
because
us or how we died.
Mhm.
And I think
Or if it's, like,
yeah,
part
I
of
think
us.
like when Becca asks the listener like, "Oh, hey, how'd you die?" And then the listener's like, "I don't know, there was like some rumbling and then I'm dead." And I'm like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?"
Yeah. Like, that has to be one of
That's
the
what I'm thinking.
mudslides.
Yeah.
That makes the most sense for rumbling, and then you can't tell you were running from something, you heard rumbling, and then it's not like you would tell if it
Yeah.
was a dog. Like, you could tell, "Oh, yeah, I heard growling instead
Yeah.
of
It was
rumbling."
not the hellhound that killed us, okay?
No. He is best boy. Again. But, yeah, it has to be in Earth, the
Mhm.
mudslide. Um, Also the time period makes sense
Yeah,
for it,
because I
right?
mean,
I don't know if we gotta
I
put
feel like the mudslide, like, they keep talking about it like it's something that's happened a long time ago, which I feel like
Yeah.
maybe 1800s, early 1900s, maybe in like the context of history isn't like a long time ago, but maybe in the context of this town, probably.
Yeah.
So that's now what I'm
Um,
assuming is the time frame of the big mudslide.
it makes
Mhm.
sense. Small town, and also, yeah, consider they had to, like,
Mhm.
rebuild. I'm probably repeating what you said, but, like, I literally, like, you know how you feel something just in and
Mhm.
out? Just like, "Oh, yeah, I heard it and I felt it pass through my brain, and then it came out on the other side." So, that's what Brian's doing today. We're having a great time. Um, anyway, she's like, "Oh, it's gonna be hard to do that because, uh, the environment, right? With the red clay and all that, this stuff is shifting and moving, and it might not still be here, it might not be here
Yeah.
anymore, whatever was tying you." Even though it would be, because that's where the spirit
Mhm.
is, right? So, I guess it's somewhere, but we have to
Yeah.
look for it. And I think something happens, and she's like, "I can't do it today, but I'll come back and
Mhm.
do it." I don't remember what exactly, but
And I
something
think it was like
happens.
it was
Wait.
raining recently, so like I can't do
Yeah,
it.
and you know how it is in rain, you know how the rain is out
Yeah.
there. People are underwater, like, for what, most of the
Yeah.
year. So, God.
Redwater is Atlantis confirmed.
Really? It has to. It's like Princeton if it was in Atlantis. Why? So much water. There's so much
So
rain.
much.
So much water. I would, like, die. I would be like, "I can't be here anymore. I can't do it. It's too much. It's too wet here." My gosh. Yeah.
Oh.
That's that's all the character
That's
background
all
we
the
have.
character background. So now we're gonna go into so Spark does like a little like Q&A for characters every so now and again. Every so now and again. Yeah, that's English.
She always have It's so great, her timing. She always does it when I'm,
Not
like,
around.
either sleeping or yeah, or, like, in class, or, like, walking to
Mhm.
class, or walking from class. I'm like, I can't stop right now. Can't, I wish. And it's, like, for 2
Mhm.
minutes. So I'll hear a ping, and won't look at my phone, and then I'll look, and she like, "Oh, here," and then done. I'm like, "But I didn't even know, 2 minutes. What happened? I didn't even know. I looked away for, like, 2 seconds. What is
Yeah.
this?" Yeah, I always, and then when I do catch it, I have no question. I can't
You're
suddenly I
just
forget
head
everything.
empty.
What even is a question? Yeah, no thoughts.
Um
It's,
but yeah,
terrible.
so she does that every now and again. So, I've taken note of like some of the questions that were asked and the answers that she gave for certain characters that were mentioned today. So first going on to like Dakota, some of the questions that were asked was, well, Dakota mentions that she's self-employed now. What does she do? Apparently she runs like an online business, but Spark hasn't quite decided what that is yet. So um and then somebody asked about whether Dakota knows anything about the Quinn Becca thing, which later on in the audio series we learned that like Dakota really doesn't know anything about it. Just that like there's drama, but like doesn't know the context. And I'm like, why?
It's a thing.
But honest, I was like, how does Dakota not know about this? But then I thought back to like my childhood and when there was drama going on with friends and I had no clue and I'm like, you know what? Relatable. I get it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not in the loop too.
I don't wanna be involved.
I'm just like, there's drama,
I
not
don't
for
wanna hear
me.
about it.
Then there was a question of what is Dakota's stance on legends, lore, cryptids, all that jazz, with Redwater. And Spark said that she does believe in some of them, but disregards some of the others. But like most people in Redwater believe things, but believe things that are not always what they seem. Then why did Dakota stop being a first responder? Because in like I think one of the first few audios, Dakota mentions that she was a first responder. And really all we got was a shrug. And it's like we assume like there was a reason why she stopped, but we have not been told the answer, which I feel like maybe it could be a big deal or it could just be a side thing. I don't know. I suspect that there's more to it cuz I'm like why would you stop all of a sudden?
She said it was like, "Oh, it got to be a lot, right?" But I'm like, "What if it was, like, the off thing?" Like how,
Mhm.
she felt like something was
Yeah.
off with Rascal,
Mhm.
but, like, she could never pinpoint it before. Or maybe it's just like, Also, the way that Quinn talked, she's like, "Oh, you know what you need to do now. Go talk to your grandparents." Like, "Oh, this is something that,
Has
like,
come up
not quite a history, but, like." Yeah, so I'm like, maybe it is from her work as a
first responder.
first
Yeah.
responder.
Now going to Veronica, some of the questions that were asked about her. Um
Veronica,
Veronica.
open the door.
So how much does she know about Redwater, the history, lore, myths? And the answer we got was short and simple. It was more than one might think, which I'm just like, okay, if that applies to like the cryptid stuff too, I'm just like, how much does she know? Is she a cryptid? Now I'm questioning everything. I don't know. She's like,
My
I
god.
mean, you never know.
Veronica's yeah. Maybe she's just like she hears about her like Dakota's like possible supernatural thing. She's like, that's wild. Feel for you, babe.
um,
Hope you're doing well.
some of the other things that we got to learn about Veronica in the Discord is that she is very close to her family. Um, she does know about the rumors of her family, like with Dakota and stuff. We are given no more information other than that, but Veronica knows about that situation, whatever that situation is.
We also we don't know what the rumors
Yeah,
are.
I'm assuming
But
maybe it has to do with the grandparents. But why? But what?
why? What is it? I want to know.
Can you show me? I want to know about these strangers like me.
Leave. Leave.
When I see the opportunity, I take it.
My goodness.
Um,
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Phil Collins is a classic national hero.
He is.
Um, so finally we can get into the last part of today's episode, which will be talking about the theories and questions we have. So I wrote down a couple. First, I want to talk about Dakota. This has to do with her rumor thing and also what happened with the listener. So I feel like I didn't re-listen to the audios before today. Well, I did, but like a couple days ago. So they've left my
How
mind.
dare you? You didn't cram the 2 hours before.
But you did, so I'm gonna ask you questions.
I love that you think I retained
Okay,
things.
no, okay, so but during the part where the listener wakes up, was like a whooshy whoosh sound, right? Like a magic audio effect.
I didn't. I was reading the
Oh no.
transcripts.
Okay, well, I could be wrong, but I feel like
Oh, no, I'm gonna do it
you're
now. I'm
gonna
gonna listen to it now.
just get to the part where the listener wakes up, because I feel like there was like a whooshy whoosh effect.
A whooshy whoosh.
A whooshy whoosh. Look, that's the best way I could describe it, you know?
I want you, when you promote the podcast, just say whooshy
Whoosh
whoosh. That's the only
whoosh.
caption you're allowed to put
Whooshy
now.
whoosh.
Wooshy woosh.
Please wake up. 1.
Okay, I'm back.
Was there a
Oh.
wooshy woosh?
There was a wooshy woosh.
There was
but
a
also,
wooshy woosh. Okay.
before the wooshy woosh, two grown women sang wooshy woosh on repeat. Her voice had an echo to it.
Echo
So it's
and
like,
wooshy woosh.
You know how like with Siren and Cam, the hint that there was something up with Cam.
Yes, the magic.
The echo.
The magic echo.
Mhm. It's the magic echo.
Huh.
So clearly there's something up.
Okay, so now we have confirmed.
So she has whatever power she has. Yeah, she doesn't know about
wooshy woosh. I think so. She probably has magic.
Trust the wooshy woosh.
I think she's a witch, or something like that. Witch.
Witch.
She's a witch.
Witch.
Okay.
Redwater. Unbelievable.
I mean, small town. There were rumors about her grandparents. That says witch to me. It's like such a dumb thing, but yeah, that's what I think.
Well, the thing is, I don't know about what the other types of cryptid beings there are in Redwater outside of mudslides, potentially. Mudslides, question mark?
Mudslide,
and
hellhound.
Hellhounds.
There's also
we know
something weird with the mines.
There's something living in the mines, clearly.
Definitely.
There's something there.
But yeah, so I'm like, Dakota, she's got some kind of magic stuff going on. Maybe it's inherited. And if it's inherited, does that mean Veronica could have magic too?
We're gonna find out when we're on our little weird midnight swim date.
She just turns into a mermaid. Like, I don't know.
Oh my gosh, watch that happen.
If I called it, I'm dead.
We're gonna just get on a call. We're just gonna do a little snippet, like 10-minute audio of just us screaming, like, "Oh my god, we called it!" Goodness.
No. I mean, okay, I don't actually think it, but
it's H2O.
It's H2O. But yeah, so Dakota's got some kind of magic thing going on. Maybe Veronica too, since they're related. But like, yeah. There's something going on there. So then the next thing I'm gonna talk about is Quinn and Becca's drama. So like, okay, we have like no info on it, but now that we know that Becca is basically the ghost whisperer, like she could talk to ghosts. So if that does not play into the drama situation, I have no clues. I throw in my hat. That's it.
And I feel like it would have to like something happen with I don't know, because we don't really know what she's clearly trying to help someone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense. I think the ghost that she's trying, she said he, so whoever he is, clearly was a point of tension, or may have been a point of tension for Quinn and Becca, and like I feel like that would be why she was like, the fact that she can talk to him still is why she's still holding on to this grudge, right? How many years later? If Quinn is so clearly not over it, but like
moving on,
they've moved on, but like, Becca's still holding on, unless it's just Becca's that kind of person. Like I feel like definitely the spirit has something to do with it.
Yeah, because like,
right?
also, why would the spirit lead? The spirit somewhat doesn't want help, and then ends up leading Becca to the listener, and is like, peace out, take care of this ghost instead. And Becca's like, no, this is not what I want to do.
This is, I just kind of thought of this now, so it's kind of stupid. I mean, generally.
Go for it.
But, okay. I mean, so what, Quinn is also kind of like, what, a lore hound and all of that, and I feel like they took everyone, or maybe a few select people, on certain adventures, and they're like, they went to the church, and they're like, oh, this is the first time I've gotten stuck in here, and all of that, right? So what if the point of contention is also what Dakota never leaves her house, is said by Veronica, so she wouldn't be as inclined to go on these adventures. What if one of these things led, because we don't know how long Becca's been a medium, right? We don't know if like that's something she's had all her life.
I mean, when Becca was like, I've been doing this for a long time, so
maybe it was the 10 years.
Could have been the 10 years, could have been longer.
It was like maybe the thing that happened, right, like was, they got in a situation because, Quinn was being adventurous and
Quinn was like, I need the
wanted to go check
lore, which would make sense why
Yeah.
Quinn is kind of like likes to tell us about stuff, but doesn't want us to go out and like discover stuff on our own.
Yeah, and do not, if I say don't touch something, don't touch it, right?
Because like Quinn was very much like, do not go to the mines. Like, do not.
Maybe that's went to the mines.
That's what I'm
Something happened at the mines.
Happened at the mines with Becca and maybe this spirit dude. Like, I don't know.
That makes sense.
We're piecing it
from one audio and snippets from everything else.
We are piecing together.
We're trying.
We have like 5 pieces in like a 1,000-piece puzzle.
And
we're like
gotten not even the outline done. We haven't even gotten the border done.
But we're like, this kind of goes together. Sure, totally.
Watch be like, no, you just kind of smushed those pieces together and you thought that made a decent picture, but you actually, if you look out, it just, no. You've attached an eye to like a beak or something. Like, no.
But
thought I was onto something.
But yeah, so like I feel like it's gotta be something to do with cryptids, something supernatural.
We are experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Back in here, Craig.
How could you do that?
The audacity of Craig.
Oh my gosh. What happened to the rest of the audio? Is it saved?
I mean, I have it, like, it shows up. I can delete it. I mean, I can download it.
Okay, good. We just lost, how long we've been doing this for? An hour?
God.
Oh my god.
That would make me cry.
Honestly. Like, you know what? That's it. We're done. Podcast is over.
Okay.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Craig threw me off my flow, man. Like,
come on, Craig.
Okay, we were talking about. I think we were just saying like, okay, something's going on with Becca and Quinn. That's it. I think we finished our thought on that.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about is Redwater University. It's very sus. Mainly because it's the only building that survived in the big landslide, as been mentioned. And I'm like, why? Why has that the only one that's been survived? I think it's gotta be something like supernatural. Like, I don't know, hellhound watching over it.
That in the
I don't
church.
know. And like, what's so important about it to like, that's the reason. Like, why did it not get hit by the landslide?
It has a lot of like weird artifacts, right?
Yeah. I mean, it has its own museum. Like, I feel like most schools don't have their own museum. Like, a legit museum.
How about like, stuff of their own history?
Yeah.
Very sus. That's the note.
Very sus. That's all I have to say, very sus. You have thoughts, let me know. But to me, just sus. But yeah. And then we talked about the mines already, basically, with the Becca thing.
Mines of Redwater.
We could pass through the mines of Moria.
I want Gimli to say it in his wonderful little accent. The mines of Redwater. Oh my god. Delete that. Cut that.
No, keeping that. No! I'm gonna amplify it. I'm gonna have the Lord of the Rings music playing in the background. Okay. And then one of the questions that I had, because recently Spark did another Q&A thing, which didn't come up with a bunch of answers, but one of my questions was, is there an Umbra presence in Redwater? So, to clarify, Umbra are basically like the enemies of the Order series that she has, and they basically kind of like watch over all of the worlds, which I think includes Redwater. I'm assuming it's connected. And the reason I say that I think that there's a presence in Redwater is because Redwater has like a lot of stuff going on, a lot of weird stuff, and I feel like maybe it's been caused by the Umbra, or I don't know, because the Umbra they're not like people, they're like spirit things that manipulate people to do bad things.
I'm not like the other girls. So bad. God.
But yeah. So like they influence people, right? They're not like a person they like influence people to do things that are bad. They're basically like, okay, so like the word genius comes from the idea that it used to be like this entity that gave you thoughts that made you smart. Like you weren't the genius. Genius was a person that gave you the ideas. So that's kind of like the Umbra is, but like the bad version. So instead of giving you good ideas, it gives you bad ideas to like make the world worse. Yeah. It's no good. Bad news bears. But yeah, so I feel like there might be something there, but I feel like we have to wait a bit until we get any confirmation.
I mean, the worlds are all connected, right?
Yeah, I think so.
It would make sense.
And then the last thing, which we kind of talked about when we were talking about Becca, like what killed the listener. So like as we mentioned, it might be like the big landslide that keeps getting mentioned over and over again, considering the time frame of like when the listener died.
Yeah, I think it has to be the landslide. Why they were, well, I guess I was to say why they were running, but yeah, that makes sense why they're running. How are they separated from their family though? Like what, the surround, and how do they know the other spirit? Like how was there a connection between whoever Becca's trying to help and this person? Stranger.
Mm-hmm. Stranger. Yes, because
Stranger danger.
Do we not remember our name, or we're not telling our name?
We're not telling her our name. Maybe we might just not remember
Which,
it. That's
why?
our cover.
We're just like, we're just like, I'm not gonna tell you. But then you're like inside, like, I don't remember my name. I don't know my name.
It's like, I'm gonna bluff.
Who am I?
Who really is Stranger? I call myself Stranger because I'm a stranger to myself.
So dramatic, even for the 1800s.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh.
The drama never stops.
Really. I mean, it's Redwater. What would it be without drama? Is that all like the lore?
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, that was quite a bit. 2 hours?
What?
Have we been talking?
I've been talking for 2 hours?
It's 3:30 my time. When did we start recording?
I don't know. We started late. It's been like an hour and a half almost. We started talking before that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's everything though for
we might have
Redwater Part 1.
Yeah, we might have more once we go into the other parts. I watched the 15 different endings.
Yeah. Part 2 will be the 15 endings. Like I'm gonna try and like write down. I mean I have written it down, but I need to make it neater because like it was from the day that the audio came out, so it looks like a hot mess of notes.
Can you just send me the order in which I have to watch the videos so that like I can know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just like I got the same ending. God, yeah. I've gotten ending 7 the first.
I'm gonna write down
4 times in a row
how to get to each ending.
Nice.
And we'll share that whenever we do that episode because
so you too don't
was
get
hard for me
8 3 times.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But it's funny, I got like the quote unquote true ending on my first go, and I was like, how? What wizardry is this?
You're that great of a lorehound.
I'm just, yeah.
Peachy's just built
in
different.
My genes. I'm just built different.
With the cat with the glasses on. I'm built different.
But yeah, I think that's everything.
Oh my goodness.
So I'll do the sign off now.
This is our shortest episode ever?
Possibly.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Lore Gremlin Podcast. Thank you for taking the of your day to listen to the ramblings of a couple of wacky lore hounds today. Once again, check the links in the description below for Spark's channel, for Discord, too, if you are 18 or older, and any key audios that we mentioned in today's episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where we talk about God knows what. But hope you enjoyed. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.